Welcome to Thelina. Some relationships feel familiar even before they begin, as if they carry the trace of an emotion lived before. Wanting closeness yet pulling away, feeling uneasy while being loved, or sensing something missing just as a deep bond is about to form, these are not coincidences. Most of the time, they are quiet reflections of attachment patterns we carry without realizing it. This series was not created to offer quick answers to the question, "Why am I like this?" Nor is it here to label, blame, or diagnose anyone. On the contrary, it exists to gently look at the recurring cycles in relationships, the moments of approach and withdrawal, the silences, and the emotions that overflow, along with the unseen dynamics beneath them. Some of us seek love in closeness. Others feel safe in distance. Some fear losing themselves when they attach, others fear being alone. These differences are not flaws. They are inner strategies that once worked, once protected us. But not every strategy works in every relationship. On this journey, our aim is not to find the right attachment style. It is to notice how we show up in relationships, and why we return to the same feelings at certain moments. Because noticing is often the quietest place where change begins. Before we begin the series, if the work I share resonates with you, your support helps this space reach more hearts. Subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment mean more to me than you know. Thank you in advance. Now, let's begin this new journey together. Episode 1: Why do we return to the same relationship cycles? Some relationships, even though they begin with different names, different faces, and at different times, awaken the same feeling within us. At a certain point, a familiar sense of constriction appears, the same expectation, the same disappointment. It is as if the story changes, but the feeling remains the same. This is often explained by the thought, "I keep choosing the wrong people." Yet the issue is not only who we are with, but how we form bonds within relationships. The human mind tends to perceive what is familiar as safe. For this reason, the attachment patterns we learned in childhood or early relationships quietly repeat themselves in adulthood. Closeness feels comforting to some, while to others it feels threatening. When one person moves closer and the other pulls away, this is often not a conscious choice, but an automatic protective response. These cycles do not arise from an inability to love or from something being wrong with us. On the contrary, they emerge because strategies that once protected us are still active today. But not every strategy works in every relationship. Repeating the same reaction often leads to the same outcome. The aim of this episode is not to break the cycle right away, but first to notice it. Because before something can change, it must be seen, how it appears, and when it appears. Awareness is not about stepping outside the relationship, it is about being able to see yourself within it. Episode 2: Anxious Attachment. Those who forget themselves to be loved. For anxiously attached individuals, relationships often carry a constant state of alertness alongside love. Closeness is deeply desired, yet that same closeness brings with it the fear of being lost. Response times to messages, subtle changes in tone, or even a brief silence from the other person can create an intense sense of uncertainty. This uncertainty is nourished less by love and more by fear. Within this attachment pattern, the person begins to constantly adjust themselves in order not to lose the relationship. They try to be more understanding, more patient, less demanding. Their own needs are pushed aside, because being too much feels like a reason for abandonment. Over time, they realize they have been shrinking themselves just to be able to exist in the relationship. Anxious attachment is not a weakness. It often carries the traces of an inner world that experienced inconsistent attention in the past, that could not be sure of love's continuity. Love was learned not as a place of calm, but as something that requires effort and vigilance. This episode approaches anxious attachment not as a flaw to be fixed, but as an inner alarm that needs to be understood. Because the purpose of an alarm is not to harm us, but to protect us from loss. Yet not every alarm rings in the right moment or place. Noticing this is the first step toward building a more compassionate relationship with ourselves. Episode 3: Avoidant Attachment. Those who pull away as closeness grows. For avoidantly attached individuals, relationships may initially feel easy and effortless. But as closeness begins to deepen, a quiet unease emerges. This discomfort is rarely put into words; instead, it shows itself through distance, silence, or minimizing emotions. The phrase, "nothing's wrong," often signals that much has been suppressed. In this attachment style, the person has learned not to recognize their emotional needs. Independence feels like a safe territory. Closeness, on the other hand, may be associated with loss of control, burden, or suffocation. For this reason, distance does not arise from a lack of love, but from a need for self-protection. Avoidant attachment is often interpreted as coldness or indifference. Yet this withdrawal does not stem from an absence of feelings, but from not knowing what to do with them. Closeness touches unresolved fears within the person's inner world. The aim of this episode is not to define avoidance as a character flaw. On the contrary, it is to remind us that it was once a defense that worked. However, defenses that once protected us can leave us alone when we try to build lasting bonds. Noticing this opens a quiet door to seeing the need hidden behind the distance. Episode 4: The Anxious-Avoidant Cycle, the most exhausting attraction. The anxious-avoidant cycle is one of the most intense yet most draining bonds in relationships. As one person seeks closeness, the other pulls away; as one opens a conversation, the other falls silent. Over time, this imbalance turns into a sense of chasing. The more closeness is demanded, the greater the distance becomes, and as distance grows, anxiety deepens. What makes this cycle especially challenging is the powerful sense of attraction it creates. For the anxious partner, the avoidance distance feels familiar; it echoes early experiences of uncertain or inconsistent love. For the avoidant partner, the anxious person's need feels like pressure, triggering the urge to withdraw. Both want to be loved, yet they express this desire in very different languages. In this type of relationship, leaving is difficult, but staying is exhausting. Because the partners are often not responding to each other, but to the wounds within themselves that get activated through the other. Arguments open from the same place and close in the same way. This episode does not aim to romanticize this cycle as passionate love, but to make the underlying dynamic visible. Because this attraction is not always fed by connection, but by touching a familiar wound. Noticing the cycle is not about breaking it instantly; it is about learning not to get automatically lost inside it anymore. Episode 5: Secure Attachment, quiet but steady. Secure attachment often goes unnoticed. There are no dramatic highs and lows, no intense uncertainty, no constant crises that need fixing. For this reason, it can sometimes be perceived as unexciting or too calm. Yet this calm does not come from suppressing emotions, but from being able to express them. Securely attached individuals can balance closeness and distance within a relationship. They neither lose themselves completely nor build rigid walls. They can express their needs and listen to the needs of the other. Silence is not perceived as a threat of abandonment, and space does not mean the bond is weakening. In this attachment style, love is not something that needs to be proven. Message timing, tone of voice, or brief distance are not experienced as dangers. Because at the core of the relationship lies the feeling, I am accepted as I am. Secure attachment does not necessarily mean a perfect childhood or a problem-free past. Rather, it reflects the ability to stay in contact with one's emotions and remain present in a relationship without losing oneself. For this reason, secure attachment is not an unreachable ideal, but a way of relating that can be learned over time. This episode reminds us why peace can sometimes feel unfamiliar, and why a calm bond may initially feel lacking. Because what we are used to is not always what is healthy. Sometimes healing begins with learning not to see silence as a threat. Episode 6: Attachment is not destiny, transformation through awareness. Attachment styles are not unchangeable destinies we are born into. They are relationship strategies we once developed to protect ourselves. They taught us when to move closer, when to pull away, when to stay silent and when to speak. Yet the strategies that once kept us safe do not work the same way in every relationship. Transformation does not begin by forcing ourselves to change our attachment style. It begins by noticing what gets triggered in certain moments. In which silences does our chest tighten? In which moments of closeness does the urge to withdraw arise? The answers to these questions have less to do with the person in front of us, and more to do with our own inner world. As awareness grows, automatic reactions begin to slow down. A small space appears before we respond. And it is within this space that change becomes possible. Because in that moment, instead of repeating an old defense, the possibility of making a different choice emerges. This series was not created to give definitive answers to the question, how should we attach? Rather, it exists to gently help us see where we lose ourselves in relationships and where we pull back. Secure attachment is not a destination, it is a gradual reflection of the relationship we build with ourselves. And sometimes the greatest transformation is not fixing the relationship, but becoming more honest with ourselves within it. Closing: returning to yourself in relationship. Throughout this series, we did not try to fix relationships, change people, or teach a correct way of attaching. Instead, we looked at how we relate to ourselves within relationships. What happens when we desire closeness? What inner voices rise when distance appears? In which moments do we lose ourselves, or retreat? These questions have no definitive answers. But the questions themselves are where transformation begins. Attachment styles are like languages we learned early in life. When we speak the same language for a long time, we may forget that another language is possible. Yet with awareness, a new space of expression opens. It becomes possible to remain in relationship without repeating the same sentences, without getting lost in the same cycles. What matters on this journey is not building perfect relationships, but building ones that are more honest, simpler, and closer to who we truly are. Sometimes this transforms our connections with others, sometimes it opens a new space within ourselves. Remember, healing is not always loud. Most of the time, it is quiet. It begins by noticing a feeling, pausing in a reaction, or offering ourselves a little more compassion. And these small moments form the foundation of standing more steadily, not only in relationships, but in life itself. Remember, life is whispering to you. When you dare to listen to your heart, paths begin to open. Until our next meeting, stay with light in your heart. I am Felina, a fellow traveler walking toward the same dream. Under the same sky, with you.